Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs, and brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with an amazing gentleman who's a composer, meditation expert, and founder of a wonderful company, taking mindfulness to a whole new level. We'll find about that as we go on this wonderful journey. He was the first ever performer in Antarctica, and also first contemporary classical pianist to perform in Saudi Arabia. He also began his first company at 22 and composed his first piece at 30 in St. Petersburg, Russia. And of course, his new company designed to create the space and permission to feel, connect. And we're going to feel this right here today. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Miami. Originally from New York, he's been all over the world, just creating this mindfulness all across the board. And we can only use this for 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, the founder of MindTravel, the multi-talented Murray Hidary. Murray, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike. Great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on board, Murray. So you're a composer, meditation expert, and founder of MindTravel, and taking mindfulness to an entirely different level. You also were the first ever perform in Antarctica, making music a truly universal language and bringing awareness to climate change. And also the first contemporary classic pianist to perform in Saudi Arabia with your signature live to headphones, silent piano experience and everything, and also began your first company at 22, and you wrote and recorded your first symphony at 30 in St. Petersburg. And we'll talk about your new company as well, designed to create in space and permission. And before getting all that, Murray, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I found music at a very young age. I was about 5 years old. And when I was a kid, music was such an important language for me. I would say I was a pretty shy kid. I had a vast internal world and internal imagination. And I found it easier to communicate with music and to connect with others through music. And so I would sit at the piano for hours at a time, and it really became my companion to get through the tougher times, but also to celebrate the joys of life. And music was just a kind of a natural way for me to express myself. So that's how I got started, and eventually studied music in university to be a classical composer. I felt like I had my own thing to say with music, so I wanted to study composition to be a composer and not just play the music of past composers.
Mm-hmm.
And at around the same time, I also discovered meditation and started to really study the traditions of the Eastern philosophies, and I was very intrigued by them. I found them to be very helpful in pointing to kind of a deeper state and a way to process emotions, and that Eastern philosophy started to merge and fuse with my music, with classical music, and eventually started to create its own language, its own experience of kind of meditation, if you will, through music.
Mm-hmm. And how'd you first get involved with meditation?
I found the book Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. It's a book that actually is now 100 years old, if you can believe that. It was printed.
Try finding a library this day and age.
Yeah, I guess Hermann Hesse wrote it in the 1920s, and it won the Nobel Prize for Literature some time later. But it became a classic, and for millions and millions of people over the years, it really became kind of a spiritual hero's journey. And I found it when I was about 18 years old.
Wow.
And it quickly, it spoke to me, immediately, and it really set me off into an exploration of really my interior world. At the same time, I was traveling and experiencing a journey of the exterior, of just seeing the world in its physicality. But then there was a whole vast internal journey to also address, and that's what set me off on it. And then I got involved in Zen Buddhism and other traditions from other countries, and really just learning as much as I could, taking it all in, living in Zen monasteries and traveling to places to learn more about it.
It sounds like a rather interesting thing you're doing. We'll talk about travel as well, too. And what was it one precise moment, we'll get back to music, simply influenced you into what you're doing for the rest of your career?
It's I think what influenced me the most ultimately was my relationship with nature, and how the healing power that nature provides and the inspiration that nature provides. I
Mhm.
think all of us can relate to taking that walk in the park, taking a walk on the beach, and sitting by the ocean, sitting by a tree, and just finding such a calmness, a groundedness, and and a real healing, no matter what we're going through. Uh, so I started to use music to interpret, to translate the feelings I would have through nature, and so that became the soundtrack. Right, I was trying to play at the piano was what would the universe sound like if I could translate it into music.
Mhm. You talk about having music being with nature, universe, and everything else, and, what are some other themes that you use when it comes to, mind travel?
Um, I think some of the other themes are around emotional healing. We all go through difficulty. We all go through grief. We all go through challenges. And the question is not whether we're going to go through it. It's a question of how are we going to move through it, right?
Mhm.
It will knock on our door at some point. There will be difficulty. There will be challenge. There will be grief. And then it's a question of how are we going to handle it? How will we respond in that moment? Are we going to try to distract from it? Or will we confront it and move through it and process it? And that's truly, of course, we know the healthiest way is to really feel through it. It's only possible to heal through something if we can feel through it. So music turns out provides one of the optimal ways to do that because music is, Mike, the language of emotion, right? We say when we don't have the words for something, we turn to music, right? It seems to capture, right, our emotional state, even when we can't really articulate it. We don't have the words that can describe it fully. And of course, challenging and difficult emotions, right, can do that. They can be very difficult to articulate. We don't even know what we're feeling, but we know that it's a real difficulty. So music can step in and play a role of opening the heart and allowing us to feel the pain through us. And suddenly, right, we're open again, and there's a healing that takes place.
Mm, that's really interesting. It said something about that, and then when many of us go through emotions, including myself as well too, I turn to some music that I listened to back in the day, and it also
Right.
connects like a certain period, certain era, and also
Sure.
good times, bad times, and everything else. And of course, certain composers, artists, musicians can also trigger that. And speaking along those lines, who are some of your favorite performers and composers, pianists, and everybody else? Who are your favorites growing up?
Oh my! I mean, I grew up mainly with classical influence, so Bach was probably one of my favorites. But moving through to some contemporary composers like Philip Glass, who eventually I got to study with and meet and learned a lot from him. Um, Composers like Steve Reich as well, a contemporary composer, but also some of the pop songwriters. I grew up with Cat Stevens and
Mm.
Billy Joel, and they were tremendous influences for me. All about really the art of storytelling. Keith Jarrett was a really big influence. I used to go, to the theater in New York when I was a teenager, and just get the cheapest seat I could and just sit at the top of Carnegie Hall or Lincoln Center, and the cheapest seat I can afford, and go by myself because none of my friends would go with me, and just listen to his storytelling through music, and that taught me a lot. So yeah, those were a lot of my influences.
I was thinking about the cheap seats at Carnegie Hall. How much were they at the time?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, they had some standing seats in the back for like $15,
Nice.
and so I made that work.
Or just sneak a little stool, chair, maybe a
Yeah,
little stadium cushions where you can just find something. Maybe if somebody sat down and say, "Well, I'm keeping your seat warm," so all
that's
that. So
right. Yeah.
I'm just have to connect with Carnegie Hall one day as well too. And of course, you've traveled a lot as well too. You went from New York. You're now in Miami. You also went to Antarctica, Saudi Arabia, and more. I'll talk about your travels, but first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international war-wearing author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews, and Eve 11 enjoys by Howard celebrities including Joanna Cassie, Forbes Riley, and Else. So grab your copy today for it goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 40 podcast platforms. Heard in over 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music. Also on Anchor FM and HamiltonRadio.net every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Also on BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, and more. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check it out today. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you do so today. We're here with the terrific composer, meditation expert, and founder of MindTravel, taking mindfulness to an entirely different level, Murray Hidary, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about your MindTravel project as we go through this journey here, and you're the first ever performer in Antarctica, making music a truly universal language. You also were first classical pianist to perform in Saudi Arabia. You began first company at 22, and you also wrote your first symphony in St. Petersburg, Russia. Let's start with Antarctica, being like, one of the first ever to perform. So what inspired you to go to Antarctica? Tell us about that.
I always believe, Mike, that music can really bridge. It can bridge cultures, it can bridge people, it can bridge understanding, bridge ideas. And I was invited to go to Antarctica with a group on an expedition, and I spoke to the organizer, and I said, well, I'd love to join you guys. It sounds amazing. I love nature. I'd love to see it. But what if we really thought a little bit bigger about this, and we mounted the first piano concert ever on the continent of Antarctica. We film it, and we then put it out there so that people can connect with nature. They'll see the penguins, the seals, the whales.
My favorites. Yes, my favorites.
The icebergs, the landscape, and how gorgeous and vast it is. And the music will be there, of course, and music can really open people's hearts. And so what they feel through the music, right, for nature, can hopefully translate to people caring more about the environment, about the landscape, about the planet. And, once someone cares about something, the chances of them shifting their behavior or getting more involved are much greater, right? So that's really the idea behind it. Is we created a documentary of the project, and we'll be putting it out there shortly. And the idea is to bring attention to an issue that affects all of us, and using music to open people's hearts to, care about what's going on around them.
Mm-hmm. And you also were the first contemporary classic pianist to perform in Saudi Arabia as well, too, with your live to headphones silent piano experience. And tell us more about that and how you first got involved with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and in a similar way, music can not just bring awareness to something like climate change, but can also bridge cultures that are seemingly on the surface, so different, so foreign. Someone, in America, wherever that might be, might think that they have nothing in common with someone who lives halfway around the world in the other side of the world in Saudi Arabia. Different background, different culture, different religion, and on and on. And so I wanted to go there. I was invited there actually by the government, and we did a beautiful outdoor concert in the desert. And the audience were local people, people from the country,
Nice.
and yes, they looked different and dressed different and all of it. But I sat and played the piano, and after an hour of music, uh, I got to meet them, and they came up to me at the piano, and most of them wanted to just meet me and connect, and just say how much they loved the experience and the music. And what you find is under the surface, right? We're all much more similar than we are different, and the external superficial differences, right, are really just that. And under the surface, people are just wonderful, and there's less differences than we might imagine. So for me, it was about connecting. And yes, there are challenges, and certainly at the political and government levels, right, there are challenges. But I wanted to go and just meet and be with the people on a one-to-one level, and that's what the music allowed, is to have those kinds of intimate connections.
And besides music, what was some of the commonality that you found among the people in Saudi Arabia?
I mean, they're soulful. They love their families. They have beautiful hearts. They're compassionate. They're educated. They really have a lot of the same aspirations, a lot of the same ambitions that we do. And there's a lot of misunderstanding, that takes place. So, yeah, it's easy to kind of lump people into a big bucket and say, oh, they're this way or they're that way. But oftentimes when you get under the hood and you just start to really talk to people and connect with them, you find, a lot of commonality and warmth and hospitality, and the same things we cherish, around food and music. And
Oh,
what's
food, my
amazing.
goodness, you get me
Oh,
hungry.
oh my gosh, the food was spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And the thing is that the country is opening up, and there's a lot more change, of course, that needs to happen. But so far, music like mine was illegal just a few years ago.
I remember something about that. Yes, it's like you did
So
one wrong thing, like that.
yeah, it was, the
Ugh.
country's going through a tremendous, change. And only religious music used to be allowed. But now it's been opened up, so secular music, Western music is allowed. And, part of me going there, right, was to showcase that and to show the opening that the country's going through. And of course, there's a lot more, to go, but it's certainly on the right track. And I felt it was important to be a part of that change, to encourage it and to bridge those gaps so that hopefully it happens quicker.
And how about some of the other countries that you went through? We talked about Antarctica. We had talked about
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia as well, too. And before we get to that, you wrote and recorded your first a symphony at 30 in St. Petersburg, Russia. And tell us about that. And have you also performed in Russia as well, too? And first, talk about your symphony as well.
Yeah, for me, I've always been, a pianist and performing, and but I also compose large works, orchestral works. So when I was about 30 years old, I had an invitation to go to St. Petersburg and record that symphony, and that was just an incredible experience. But since then, with my MindTravel project, over the past years, I've been able to do performances and other recordings of larger orchestral works that really all come from the improvisations that I do live in theaters, and in my beach concerts and all that. And right now we're in the middle of the largest orchestral project, where it's a orchestral project for 60 musicians, a massive ensemble, and that's going to be premiered at MassMoCA, Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art, up near Boston. And so that's what we're gearing up for now. And again, using the orchestra as a way to express what, one instrument, it's more challenging. So you could do so much more with this tapestry of musicians.
And also too, with you being St. Petersburg as well too. What are some other countries you've been in, and what was like some experiences out there too? And talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to bring it to so many countries, particularly in Europe. We brought it to London, to Berlin, to Paris, to Barcelona, other parts of Spain, Amsterdam, on and on. And again, I get to meet the people in each of these countries and find that commonality of the human experience, right? It's like no matter what our background, no matter what language, religion, culture, like we all are going through a human experience, right? With the same ups and downs, the challenges, the ambitions, but also the triumphs and the joys of being human. And you see that and you share those stories, right, with people in the Middle East, right? Not just Saudi Arabia, but I've been to Dubai with this experience, and I've been to Israel with this experience, right?
Nice. That's a wonderful
And
country.
oh my gosh, we did a whole tour of the national parks, outdoor concerts in 5 of the national parks in Israel. And just phenomenal, where you have not just nature, but also because of the history there, that's thousands and thousands of years old. You have the archaeology, and so you're performing, in a cave that's gorgeous from nature point of view, but at the same time there are dwellings and structures that are thousands of years old as well, right nearby. So you get this rich history and connection with the land and the people. So it's just been tremendous. And of course, all across this country, I've been to dozens and dozens of cities, coast to coast, from New York to California and everywhere in between. And that was important to me, to not just bring it to places like New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco, but to bring it to Alabama and to Mississippi and to South Carolina and to Kentucky and to Tennessee, and which I have done, and brought it to these places and connected with the people there who are just wonderful. And they hear the music and they get the music and they want to have deeper experiences as well. So it was important to me to bring it across the country to all these different cities.
And which country or countries have you not been in and would like to play in?
I have a deep love for Asia, and I spent some time in Japan when I was younger, studying Zen Buddhism and exploring the country, but I've never been back there since to perform and bring MindTravel there. So going to Japan, China, and other Asian countries would be phenomenal, and hopefully I'll get to do that in the coming years.
Mm-hmm. And certainly looking forward as well too. And speaking of MindTravel, we'll talk about his project, bringing people together, space, permission to feel and connect. We're going to connect with Murray Hidary in just 1 minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios, and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international war-ring author Mia Moses of Missing, available on Amazon. We'll be back with composer, meditation expert, and founder of MindTravel, Murray Hidary, after this time out. We're back, a composer, meditation expert, and founder of MindTravel, Murray Hidary, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And talk to us about how MindTravel officially started, and especially your signature live to headphones. We love to hear more about that.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, nature has been such an inspiration for me. I think we can all relate to that, and how good we feel in nature and how calming it is. So I thought, hey, if I can bring the audience right to a beautiful natural setting, either a beach, the ocean, a forest, a park, right? I'll have a much better chance at getting them to feel that calmness than if they were kind of stuck in a seat in a theater. So I started to bring people to the beach in Santa Monica in California. And then I said, well, if they're coming to the beach, how are they going to hear the piano in any, clear way? It's just quite noisy actually out in nature at the beach.
It
Between
does,
the
yeah,
wind,
with the
the
waves,
ocean.
the birds and crashes, and you got the
Yeah,
kids
all of
playing
it.
and all that. Oh, yes.
So I said, well, okay, how about if I put the audience in wireless headphones and they can hear the music intimately live right from the piano, beamed directly into their mind through these headphones. And so we tried it out, and it was phenomenal, because now no matter where you are, Mike, on the beach, you have essentially a front row seat. You can be 5 feet away or 500 feet away. And this also enables you to find a freedom of an experience where you can walk around. Some people are walking up and down the shoreline as I play live. Some people are in the ocean up to their waist, communing with the ocean, taking it in. Some people are, maybe dancing around a little bit with the music. Some people are lying down looking at the stars. However you want to go through it, right? You can find your freedom through the experience in your own way. And you can have a personal moment off to the side and reflect on whatever you're going through. Maybe you're with a loved one, your partner, your husband, your wife, your, whoever it is, and you want to have a personal moment with them, and then come back to the group, right? And have the shared experience. So it balances this individual and collective idea of sharing space.
You also talk. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and then people can go through whatever they're going through, right? And it provides that comfort and the safety to do that.
You also talked about the beach, the parks, and also with the forest and everything as well, and the ocean. And what about the mountains too? It's just like my wife lived in the mountains for a little bit, and there's some people up in the mountains, the canyons, and all that. It's like
Yeah.
how about the experience like in the mountains or the canyons?
So I love hiking. It's probably my favorite outdoor activity to do. And I once, with my team, of course, we once took the piano mic up to the peak of a mountain through the back road. Kind of, they had a fire road in the back. We were able to drive up, and we brought the piano up to the top of this peak. And then we hiked up the audience, right? The whole audience met at the bottom and hiked up this trail. And when they got to the top, they were greeted by a grand piano at the top of the mountain.
Oh my goodness, that's a challenge I need to do one day.
So, that's how we do the mountains at MindTravel, right? And then we're all sitting at this peak, and we earned it. We walked up, right? Everyone's feeling great, inspired, taking in the sunset and listening to this music. And it was just a transcendent experience that I don't think any of us will forget.
And certainly a wonderful experience as well too. And I love to take in Mind Travel. And where can we find Mind Travel at and get all the information at, Murray?
Yeah, so it's really easy. It's just mindtravel.com and everything's there. And what's nice too is that we have like a free gift as well, where people can get a download for free of some of the music as well as the guided meditations. Speaking of mountains, we have a guided hike, a guided walk that you can do. Put it in your phone and your headphones and go on a trail and go for a walk, go for a hike, and it becomes a really connective experience that you can have. And that's all available at mindtravel.com. And I'm also on Instagram under my name, Murray Hidary.
We will certainly check that out. We're here with composer, meditation expert, and founder of Mind Travel, Murray Hidary, here on the Mike Wagner Show. Just a few more minutes. We'd love to have you back and talk to us about more about your experiences as well, too. What can we expect from you in 2023 and beyond, Murray?
Well, we're hoping to resurrect the big cross-country tour. We're dusting it off now. I was on tour leading into COVID, and we had 60 cities planned, Mike, and we got through about 10 of them, and then we were, shut down by COVID. So we're looking to get back to all those cities in the year to come, as well as some, other big projects and doing a lot online. A lot of people live in places that it's hard for us to get to or get to more than once or twice a year. So we do twice a month, we do virtual concerts that you can listen to right from your living room. We also do virtual walks. So you join us and you can go for a walk in your own park, your own beach, your own neighborhood, and be with others in music. And it's very connective, and it really helps as we go through these difficult times.
And certainly difficult indeed as well, too. A great time to take in Mind Travel as well, too. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career, Murray?
Oh my! In my career, I would have to say the composer Philip Glass was the biggest influence for me. I was lucky enough to meet him. He's a famous American composer and pioneered the whole minimalist movement in music. And I got to meet him when I was about 20 years old.
Wow.
Learned a lot from him. He was a real mentor for me. But also seeing how he crafted a new experience in his own way. And that's something that I aspire to do, and hopefully I'm doing in my own career, in my own life.
You're certainly doing a great job of it as well, Murray. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Well, I would say the best advice is to not take life so seriously, but also to take it serious enough that you realize that every moment matters.
And that's a very good point as well, too. We're here with Murray Hidary, the composer, meditation expert, and founder of Mind Travel here on the Mike Wagner Show. Murray, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. And once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your works?
Thank you, Mike. It was really great to be here. And I hope people will come to www.mindtravel.com and they can check out stuff for free and get involved. As well as on Instagram, it's Murray, Murray, Hidary, Hidary, on Instagram.
We'll certainly check that out. Once again, Murray, a very big thank you for your time. You've been totally amazing. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back and wish you all the best. And Murray, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you, Mike.